So the health and wellness piece, is getting a lot of promotion. I still think we're early in terms of folks figuring out which benefits they want to deliver and what their merchandise assortments are there. Most of the focus has been on the 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, or 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock tablets there, air, water, and light. Mm-hmm. But there's a bigger way to look at this, which is the additional tablets that I've added in here. We're still a long way from good air quality in new homes. I mean, what I hear from industry is that 10% of new homes are really being built with the appropriate ventilation and air quality. And I don't think that's about the self-interest side of things from the vendors. I just think that's the reality. We all know we build a tighter envelope now to save energy, but that is limiting the fresh air exchange. And so if we're not putting ERVs and HRVs in these built tight houses, we're going to have air quality issues. And it's that basic. And then there's a whole other set of technologies, whether it's the humidification, and April Air talks about radon. Radon is a gas. I think we think of it as like nuclear rays, gamma rays coming, but it's a gas, right? And so that's another air quality piece that can be tended to. So it's gotten a decent amount of attention, but we're not doing much about it. Water is another area of opportunity. And
water is tricky.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about light down the line, but lighting has an incredible effect on your wellness, your sleep patterns, et cetera, and we have new technology that matches the light, the artificial light in your house to what's going on outside so that your biorhythms are in sync and you feel better. I think sound is a missed category. The acoustics in a space can be horribly disconcerting mentally. I mean, I've been in houses where the acoustics are so bad in a great room, you can't even have a conversation, right?
That's true.
And maybe it's just my middle-aged male ears, but I find that distressing, actually.
No, it definitely plays a factor, and now that we're trying to ask our homes to do so much more for us, being able to have some sort of sound and sound privacy in the home allows for those multiple functions to all happen at the same time. And so when we talk to consumers about health and wellness, what we found is that around 60 to 70% of them are taking actions to improve their physical health, and around the same percentage are also taking actions to improve their mental health. And I can get you the exact numbers if you want. We have a whole report on health and wellness that I can send to you. Just send me an email. But all of these pieces on this wheel factor into it. And the one that we spend the most time doing, even if it's unconscious, is sleep. And making sure that you're designing for restful sleep sometimes includes what's going on with the sound and the light in the room. And so being able to think through that and what that means, all of these pieces have to come together for somebody to truly feel like they are taking care of themselves physically and mentally.
Yeah, sleep is a big one. And there's the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I love the federal government because of the statistics. That's what I love about the home building industry. There's no industry that has more statistics, right?
Got a lot.
I like baseball. I like the home building industry. It's just lots of numbers and columns to look at. But they do the American Time Use Survey annually. And you can analyze it, and the number one thing that people do at home is sleep from a time use perspective. But is anybody addressing sleep in any way with technology or otherwise in their houses? I mean, it's the number one thing they do. The number two thing they do is, we don't know about the work piece in the wake of COVID and all the work from home changes, so that may be number two now.
I have some stats on that later. It's not a time, but
number two is watching TV.
Yeah.
And you builders have really not offered TVs much because the margin from your trade contract, there's not enough margin to share, so they don't really make it into your models and such. But it's when people are awake, it's the one thing they do. So we want to show that. We want to give them that experience because that's part of the way they enjoy their home. So we're kind of missing an opportunity there.
Some time with entertainment. So when we talk to consumers about health, this is from our most recent survey that's actually not published yet. So kudos to Megan, she's not in the room, but she pulled this together for us and got all the data together for us. Most consumers believe that the best way to get healthy indoor air is through a filtration system. This is how they feel. And the second is through fresh airs that open doors and windows. I don't have the data from this from 2018 and 19. We didn't ask the question then. But I would guess that those two would have flip-flopped in the past 2 to 3 years. So 52%, that's over half, are thinking about air filtration systems. And I do think I have it later, but I'll talk about it now. They understand some of the air filtration systems and are aware of them more so than others.
So they know they want fresh air. There's a problem with opening doors and windows, which is the temperature outside or the humidity outside not being the right thing for the inside of the house. So that gets us back to HRVs and ERVs. I'm going to be shilling ERVs and HRVs.
That's where it comes to a lot of education is still, and I've talked to some of the leading healthy home builders around the country. I've spent a lot of time trying to understand their business and how they do it. And the number one thing that I've been told from them is they have to figure out post-sell how to continue to engage with the consumer, to educate them on how to operate their home and maintain the basics in their home. So much so that I've heard of them. Thrive Home Builders in Denver does this. When they close on a home, what they do is they go and they bring this giant box that has all of anything that they need to do for that home for the year. Air filtrations, changing a light bulb, changing this, checking water monitors. It's this giant box of everything, and they put it in their garage. And then they say, we're gonna come on 6-month anniversary and your 1-year anniversary, and just leave this box here, and we're gonna replace all your filters. We're gonna show you what all those filters are. We're gonna crawl into it. I'm gonna show you how to replace this, and then we're gonna set a timer on it, and it helps them educate the consumer, so much so that they've started their own business. They have a secondary business that helps educate the consumer post-sell on how to take care of their healthy, smart home. And that's the level that they had to get to in their market, so that the consumers are like, okay, you sold me, I want this healthy, high performance home, this smart home. But then they had to go to the next level to show them how to maintain it and to use it, because if they're not changing the air filters, if they're not checking on these things, if they're not doing the basic maintenance, the home's performance actually drops over time. And so they decided that that's how they were gonna get around that.
I think it's tough to market some of these things because they're invisible. Yeah. Air is invisible, sound is invisible, and we really rely on visual
water pipes are invisible.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff's in between the walls or in the basement too. And the industry has done a horrible job on the marketing side of things. I mean, they're going to tell you it's ASHRAE 62.2 compliant on the air, and like, oh, that sells, because everyone's looking for a 62.2 ASHRAE. So we need to hone those messages and make them, more relatable and emotional from a consumer perspective.
So we asked consumers what terms they were most familiar with. The number one was Energy Star. No surprise there. They've been on the market for a really long time. They've got a lot of marketing campaigns. Number two was HEPA filtration systems. And then you'll see way down there, all the way to the left, the MERV filtration. Both filtration systems, for some reason, HEPA's done a really good job. HEPA got into airplanes. HEPA got into vacuum cleaners. They started to work with allergists who spend a lot of time telling their patients to get better air filters. Yeah. And then the one that really surprised me is around carbon neutral. And think about carbon neutral for a second. If you go onto Google and you search for a flight, what does it tell you? Here's your carbon. Do you want to offset your carbon? There's a lot of awareness around carbon that's coming up along the way. more so than net zero, which has actually been talked about in our industry for a lot longer.
Yeah.
So you can start to see how their knowledge drops off drastically after those.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a way, home building industry has become too reliant on all these little certification labels that they mean something to us on the inside. They don't mean a ton to people on the outside. And so instead of actually figuring out how to carry forward the benefit message, we rely on these labels that really have low awareness and understanding to them.
Yeah.
So it's just,
But the consumer does value that a third party is telling them that what you've done helps them.
Yeah.
And that's really the thing to think about, is it's not necessarily who did it. It's not necessarily that it is Energy Star certified. It's that there is a third party that looked at this and said, yes, this meets these requirements. And knowing that it's not just, I'm Builder Deanna, and Builder Deanna says that I did all these things, that somebody else is verifying it.
yeah. This is from our friends at April Air. It's just the ventilation, the air purity, the dehumidification and humidification, and the controls. Those are the big 4 categories on the air quality side of things. And here's, I didn't put this one together, but here's a good, better, best on air, water, and light that you all can review at your leisure.